and I'll make it available tomorrow. All right, so now double check I'm recording. Okay, great, fantastic. All right, so welcome. My name is Daryl. I'll be your tutor for this semester. I'll help you through this course. So yeah, this is the first collab, and I want to basically take you through the IIE Learn platform to kind of familiarize with it, show you how to access some of the resources, and find your way through the material. Right, so let me share my screen, and feel free to, you can drop a text in the chat if you have any questions, or you can unmute yourself and ask away. So I'm going to share my screen. Cool. All right, so I'm sharing my screen. But if you can't see it, just let me know. Drop a message in the chat. So this is the IIE Learn platform, and what I want to take you through first is on the left panel, you'll see a heading called Module Content, and there's a section here that says Learning Units. Now, I want you to click there, and you'll see here you'll have all your learning units for this course. Okay, learning unit 1, 2, all the way up to 9. Now, do not get confused with the learning unit number and the textbook chapter number. They don't necessarily correspond. Okay, so for instance, if you're on learning unit 2, which is index numbers, and if you're not sure what chapter that is in the textbook, you can click on this learning unit 2, and if you navigate down on index numbers, you'll see it refers you to chapter 14. So it says find some of the answers on chapter 14 of your textbook. So that's the chapter on the textbook. So learning unit 2 is chapter 14 of your textbook, and that's how you would find your chapters in your textbook that correspond to that learning unit. All right, so do go through the material online on the IIE Learn platform. It's really good material. I encourage you to go through that. All right, you can click on all the different themes, and it'll give you a breakdown of what's being covered in that specific learning unit. And then you have the IIE online material to as a resource. You have your textbook. It's another resource, and I'm going to show you. If you click on more resources on the left here under module content, you have your lecture slides. All right, so if you click on lecture slides here, you'll see there's lecture slides for all of the learning units as well. So this is additional material to supplement your learning. All right, so let's go back to more resources. All right, and you'll also have your workbook here. So if you click on workbook, you can access this material, which it gives you a description of the content, but it's used a lot more for revision exercises. Okay, so you can work through the problems in this workbook to help you in your understanding. All right, and then if you want to kind of have a gauge of what kind of pace you should be keeping, and basically what learning unit should you have covered by that specific week, then you need to access your module outline. Now this link here where it says access PAS and module outline, it's exactly as the heading says. It'll take you through a video of how to access your PAS, right, and your module outline, and then you can get that. I'd encourage you to get that as soon as possible, because your PAS will give you the deadlines for your assignment, exam, etc. And the module outline will give you your module pacer. I'll show you what the module pacer is here. This is the module pacer. I'm on page 17 here. So just to give you an idea, if you're on learning unit 2, it tells you this is what you should have covered this by academic week 2 and 3. All right, so your week 2 and 3 should be spent learning unit 2. All right, so it's this is, if you're interested in, well, you should be trying to figure out what learning unit you have covered by what specific week, then get your module outline. It'll have your pacer in it. Right. Okay. So a wealth of information in this more resources folder. Okay. So lecture slides, case studies and activities that'll get loaded later on in your revision. But for now, focus on your lecture slides and your workbook, and also getting access to your paths and your module outline. Another thing you'll have to be proficient in is using your calculator. Because if you click on this link, it will take you to a breakdown of how to use your calculator, but this will deal specifically with the Casio, not the shop. Okay, so if you have the shop, we don't really have a resource for that. You can look online. Basically, YouTube videos will kind of explain to you how to use the statistics mode, but I encourage you, if you don't have a calculator as yet, get a Casio, okay, the FX series and statistics calculator. Go through this. It'll gives you a good breakdown of how to use your calculator, because you will need to use that in this course. All right, so that's what I want to cover in the more resources folder. And yeah, if you have any questions, drop me an email. My email is on the announcements, damodi@iie.ac.za. And shout out with any questions. I'm here to help. All right. The next thing I want to mention is your ICE activities. All right. All your ICE activities are due on the same date and time. So I think you have until the 26th of October, and it's at 8 p.m. But if you're not sure, click on ICE activities. And if you click on any ICE task, all right, let's click on ICE task 2 as an example. Let's click on that. And you don't even have to start it, okay? Just because you clicked on it doesn't mean you have to start it. It'll give you a description, and you can see here, it tells you what the due date is. All right, so this test is due 26 October, 8 p.m. All right, so then you should plan in advance to finish them. Please do not wait close to the deadline to finish it, especially in the last week. You should have completed all ICE tasks well before the last week of the deadline. All right, that's my advice to you and suggestion. So please do not leave it for the last minute. All right, so that's how you access your ICE tasks. Okay. All right, and what else I wanted to mention on more resources. I think I may have comment in the chat. How many ICE tasks do you need to have? 4. You'd have to complete 4 ICE tasks. And there's 4 available for you. Yeah, hope that helps. No worries. Okay, so that's kind of a breakdown of how to find your material and find your way. And yeah, please ensure that you have your textbook, your calculator available to you, and all the resources that I've shown you already. All right, so I'm actually gonna do a bit of learning unit 2 index numbers to kind of take you through that. We won't have a collab every week, so a lot of the learning is left to you. It's self-learning. So if you are stuck with something or any material or something regarding a specific learning unit that you're not understanding, then please drop me a mail. You should be working through these learning units, kind of trying to solve problems, working through your workbook. And if you're stuck, if you're not understanding how to work through a problem, then please drop me an email. You can send me the PDF, and I can look through it and kind of guide you on how to proceed. But yeah, you'd have to actively do the work. It's not just teaching you everything. Okay, so if you're stuck with something, yes, we'll help you in understanding it. But if you you're struggling with a certain learning, yes, I will assist with that. But in this collab, I'm going to take you through basically it's teach you learning unit 2 if you haven't reached there as yet, and I'm going to use this example to kind of illustrate it. Okay, so learning unit 2 is about index numbers. Okay, now index numbers, basically all it is, it's determining how something has changed from one time period to another. And when I say something, I mean either the price or the quantity of something. All right. So one of the common questions that you can get asked for index numbers is to work out composite indices. For example, you may get asked to work out the last price index, or you could be asked for working out the Posh price index, and I'll explain that to you now. Right, so in a question, you'd be typically given this information. So what I'm going to show, what I'm kind of highlighting in green, this is the information that's given to you, all up to here. So you'd be given, let's say, for instance, 3 items. It could be 2 items, but in this example, it's 3 toiletry items. It's soap, deodorant, and toothpaste. And what you're given is you're told what the price, which is the P column here, this P naught, right? What the price is and what the quantity is in a certain year. So in this case, it's 2010, and they generally tell you what the base year is, right? The base year is, in this case, it's 2010. So you're given what the price is of soap in 2010, which is $1.95, and the quantity of it that was sold is 37. And the same way, deodorant, the price of it was $14.65 and 24 units of it sold, etc. You'll also be given the same price and quantity columns for a different time period. And in this case, we'll assume it's the current year. And obviously, the current year now is 2023, but this data is in 2018. So at that time, the current year was 2018. And you can see the price of soap has changed. It was $1.95 in 2010, and now it's $2.10. The quantity was 37 quantities, but now the quantity sold is 40 units. All right, and you can see that. So these, whatever I've highlighted in green, that is what will be given to you in the question. All right. So when you're working out these composite indices, like the Lasperis or the price indices, then the first step that you want to do is you want to create these extra 4 columns that I'm highlighting in blue, and I'll show you how to do that and what they mean. So you'll need to calculate these 4 columns on your own. Right? What you want to do is, right, you want to multiply the different the prices with the different quantities. So for instance, let's look at the price in 2018. So that's P1, okay? P1 is your price in the current year. The 1 will always denote the current period, and the 0 will always denote the base period, okay, or the base year, right? Remember that. So the first column I'm going to create is this price and quantity multiple column. Basically, I'm going to look at what the price is in the current year, that is P1, and multiply by Q0, right? So what I'm going to do is I'll look at P1 for, let's say, soap, because the first row is soap. So what is P1 for soap? And here's our P1 column. It's here, and you can see the price is 2.10 cents. So it's P1, which is 2.10 cents, times Q0, which is 37. Okay, there's your Q0 column. So 2.10 cents times 37. You multiply these two values out, you'll get 77 Rand and 70 cents. All right, next, we'll do the exact same thing for deodorant. P1 for deodorant is 15 Rand 95, and the Q0 is 24, so we multiply these two out, 24 times 15 Rand 95, and we get this 382 and 80 cents. All right, so pretty simple. We do the same thing for all 3 items: soap, deodorant, and toothpaste. Now the next column, instead of P1 now, let's look at P0 times Q0. Now there's no specific order that you need to follow. I could have done P0, Q0 first, and then do this column second. I could have done this second. It doesn't matter what the order is, but the main thing is that you do have all these columns listed. All right, so P0, Q0. All right, so there's our P0 column. I'm sorry, there's our P0 column here, and the Q0 column is here. So we're going to multiply these two columns with each other. So 195 times 37, right, will give us this 72.15. And we do the same thing all the way to the last column. It'll be 6 Rand 29 times 14, and we get 88 Rand and 6 cents. Pretty simple. Okay, we just follow this in a systematic way. So we've got P1 Q0, we've got P0 Q0. Now we're going to look at the P1 and Q1, right? So we didn't look at that pair. Right, so it's always a pair of P and Q, right? It's just the different P's with the different Q's. And we follow this method pretty much the same throughout. Okay, so if you want P1, Q1, you just look at these two columns here, right? And you multiply them out. So 2 Rand 10 cents times 40, which will give you this 84 Rand. And you continue that process all the way to toothpaste. And you can see where I'm going with this. For the last column, it will be P naught Q naught. So it's this column here, P naught times Q1, which is this column. So we're going to multiply these two columns with each other. All right, and you'll get the last column. All right, so that's how we got these 4 columns. So pretty much showed you how to get these 4 columns, and what you have in this last row here is just you totaling it. So basically, if you add up these 3 items, this 77 Rand 70 cents plus 382 plus 94 Rand, if you add them all up, you get 554 Rand and 86 cents. And you do the same thing for the other columns. You just get the total when you add up all of those. Okay. Now, once you've got those totals, now you can proceed to work out the Lasperis or the Posh price index. It depends what they ask for. But let's say they ask for the Lasperis price index. They ask you for that first. Okay, so the question says, work out what the Lasperis price index is. You will look at your formula sheet, which will have this formula. So you don't need to memorize this. Don't panic. Don't stress. This formula is given to you. You just need to know what values to use in there. Right. Now, if you look at this formula, in the numerator, you have this value here. That is the number on the top. You have this sum. That's what the sigma is. P1 Q naught. That means P1 times Q naught. Now, what that means is it's asking you what is the total. That's what the sigma is. What is the sum or what is the total of the P1 Q naught column? And if you look at our table, what we did all the hard work already. There it is. There is the P1 Q naught column, right? Because you label it as such. There's your P1 Q naught, and the total, that's what the sigma is what you've totaled in the bottom. That's the sum. So that numerator is 554.86. 554.86. Right? That's what the numerator is. All right. And the denominator, now that's this part here, value in the bottom. Okay. That's the denominator. That's your sum of P naught Q naught. Right? And all we need to do is look at where the P naught Q naught column is. There it is. It's here. And if you want the total of that, we've already done it. It's 511.81. So the denominator is 511.81. And then remember the formula. All we're doing is we're following the formula. We divide these two and we multiply by 100%. And if you work that out on your calculator, it'll give you a value of, I believe, 108.41%. 108.41%. All right, so we've done this working. The next step is to interpret this value. Okay, now what the Lasperis price index does is it tells you how the price has changed from the base period to the current period. All right, I would encourage you to subtract 100 from this to determine what the change is. So if you subtract 100 from 108.41, so that means if I say 108.41% minus 100%, okay, subtract 100%, that gives you 8.41%. 8.41%. Now, if the number is a positive number, that means it increased. Or another easy way for you to see it is if the number is greater than 100, then it increased. But if the number is less than 100, it's going to be a decrease. But in our case, it's more than 100, and we got a positive value back, so it's 8.41. So that means it increased. All right. So the statement we need to write to finish this problem. All right. And you always have to write this out in words because you can get like 2 marks for this explanation. Remember, you're working out the price index. So the first thing you can say is, right, the price, and what are we talking about here? We're talking about toiletry items. So the price of toiletry items has increased by 8.41% from 2010 to 2018, and this part here is important. Okay, now the Lasperis price index, if you look at the formula, right, you can see in the numerator and the denominator you have Q naught and you have Q naught. So that means you kept Q naught constant. So that means you kept Q in the base year. That is Q, the quantity in 2010 constant. So that means keeping, and you need to finish this off by saying that, keeping the quantity, you won't say Q naught, right? You'll say the quantity in, and what is naught? Naught is 2010. In 2010 constant. Right, and that's how you would conclude with the statement. And that's how you do this entire problem if you are asked to work out the last price index. Okay, so just before I move on, I'll just pause there for a second. Are there any questions? No? Cool. All right, no worries. All right. So in the exact same way, let's say the question asks you to work out the Posh price index. All right, so I'm going to erase this. Okay. Now the question asks you to work out the Posh price index. Now we're going to work out this one, the second one. The question asks us to work this out. And you pretty much just follow the same method I did above. Now the formula is different. If you look at the numerator, for the Posh price index, it's sum, but it's P1, but it's not Q naught now. Now it's Q1. So it's P1 Q1. All right. And that value, we've done it already. If you look at our table, there's P1 Q1. There it is here. Total is 478.94. So that total is 478.94. Okay. And the denominator is sum P naught Q1. All right. And that is this total here. 442.34. So 442.34, and then we multiply it by 100%. Because all I'm doing is I'm just following the formula here, and I'm substituting the values. Now, if you work this out on your calculator, you'll get a value of 108.27%. 108.27%. So in our case, it has increased once again. So if we subtract 100% from this, we'll get a difference of 8.2%, 8.27% increase, 2% increase. So how we would conclude this, and now the difference between the Posh and the price index, if you look at the Posh formula, you'll see that Q1 is the same in both the numerator and the denominator. So that means the quantity Q1 is constant. Q1 is constant. So what that means is basically the quantity in 2018 is constant. So how we would conclude this is we would say the price of toiletry items from, I will say, has increased by 8.27% from 2010 to 2018. Let me make this a bit larger. 18, but keeping quantity in 2018 constant. Okay, so don't forget that last part. And that's how you would answer this question. Okay, so that's how you do the Posh price index. Okay. So these are the kind of the hard indices to work out. The simple indices are very, well, they're called simple, but yeah, it's actually easier to do it. So for instance, say you are asked, what is the, let's say the price relative of soap, okay? Then that means all you need to do is you just need to look at soap and look at how the price has changed from the current to the base year. So for instance, if you wanted the price relative for soap, just look at the price in the base year and the current year. So in the current year, it's 2 rand 10 cents. And in the base year, it's 195. So you'll divide that and you multiply that by 100%. And whatever that value is, and you can see it is increased because the numerator is greater than 1.95. You work that out, and then you just interpret it as the price of soap has increased by whatever the percent is that you found here. So for instance, let's work this out just so we have an idea. So 2.1 divided by 1.95, that's equal to, so that's 1.076. So we get a value of 1.076, so 107.6. Am I right? 9%. So remember, we'll subtract 100 from it. If we subtract 100 from it, we'll get an increase of, we'll get a positive value of 7.69%. So what does that mean? It means, all it means is that the price of soap has increased by 7.69% from 2010 to 2018. All right. And that's if you were asked to work out only how the price of soap has changed. You don't have to mention about anything being kept constant because this is a simple index. All right. Okay. Yeah, that's what I wanted to cover in terms of index numbers. Please go to this video, work through problems. There's a lot of problems in your workbook, which I encourage you to go over, and yeah, to improve your understanding. But please let me know if any questions, and I'll see you on the next one. Cool. Any questions? You're welcome. All right, have a good evening and chat soon.